Hey everyone, you're listening to the Active Turnkey podcast, a podcast designed for hands-off, passive real estate rental investors. In the Active Turnkey podcast, you'll hear Tom Olson and Jarrod Stoutmeister discuss all things turnkey rentals with other turnkey providers, service providers, and rental investors. Our goal is to help you reach your financial freedom and whatever comes after that. Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Active Turnkey podcast. I'm your host, Jarrod Stoutmeister, and I have the Tom Olson with us again.
The Tom Olson. Yes, that's me.
He joins us on his company's podcasts, which is awful nice of him.
When Jarrod is available to have me on the podcast.
Which,
and today I'm sporting this nice Olson Group t-shirt. If everybody can see it, yes, the Olson Group brand there. I was out looking at houses today, and I was trying to crack the whip. No, just on delay. Trying to move people along, and projects moving actually pretty well right now. We haven't had a lot of issues so far yet with materials. I know around the country they're hearing a little bit from contractors about certain products, having a hard time getting. But so far we've been pretty lucky, and we've been able to move forward. I think we've had more issues with cities opening and getting permit stuff and inspections than anything else. But things are moving really good here.
Yes, it's been interesting, and so we're really happy to have you. And so another interesting podcast today. We are going to be discussing the coronavirus and its effect on real estate.
Okay, great. As soon as you said we're going to talk about the coronavirus, I'm like, all right, I don't want another podcast about the coronavirus, Jarrod.
Exactly.
Don't tell me about the microbiology. Don't tell me. I don't want to know if it's good for me to wear a mask or not good for me to wear a mask.
So I have two scripts. One about the coronavirus. We'll move that over.
Yeah, let's throw that one out the window.
We'll just skip point one. And we'll go
I don't think anybody else wants to hear about that either.
Yeah, because of course what you hear here would be exactly what you want to hear.
Exactly.
About coronavirus. We're the authorities.
Because we're doctors.
Absolutely.
No, we're not really, guys. Seriously, that was just a
on
joke.
The weekends and
we don't even play one on TV.
No. But no, it's going to be more or less its effect on real estate today.
Yes.
So we are going to be focusing on that.
And it has affected real estate, and I think we all need to make sure that we're being mindful and paying attention to these changes. It's kind of already given us some hints and some clues about what sectors it's going to affect more than others. And honestly, it's also given us like a sneak peek of which sectors could really be the golden child or really be like propped up during this as well. And if you're listening to this and you're interested in the normal turnkey rental product, you might be surprised and in a good way, about single family and how that might be, the shining light in all this right now. So
Tom's going to give away.
Am I giving away too much information?
You can't. So,
okay. All right.
So that's just a teaser.
Just don't listen to that last part. Just let it go.
So it's fine, but we will get there, but not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So first of all, Tom, talk to us a little bit about, on a personal level, how people should react right now, what they should be thinking, what they should be doing today on a personal level, not business minded, not necessarily turnkeys or construction or any of that stuff, property management. On a personal level, what should people be doing right now? So
right now, before you even listen to the rest of this podcast,
go wash your hands.
I want everybody to put your mask on.
Okay. Yeah.
Put your mask on, wash your hands, get the thieves spray out and spray it all over you and take a bath in it.
That wasn't it?
No, actually, what I would like for everybody to do before they listen to the rest of this podcast is go to iTunes and give us a 5-star review. We haven't gotten very many, so I'm not sure if it's not good or if just not enough people are going. I think it's because we're not asking.
Yeah.
So, I believe you have not because you asked not. It's one of those things I believe. So and I just said, duh, we have not because we asked not.
That's
so
right.
We're going to ask you guys, everybody out there, right now, stop what you're doing and go to iTunes and give the Active Turnkey podcast a 5-star review. It'd really help us out a lot. We've gotten so many great comments, and honestly, I've gotten more emails in the last 3 months about the Active Turnkey podcast than maybe even the Good Success podcast, and the Good Success podcast has thousands of listeners. So anyways, a lot of people like the Active Turnkey podcast. I think it's Jarrod.
I'm sure
it might be our really good looks. No, that's probably not it either. It might be because we're really funny. You think, Jarrod?
Definitely. All the above.
I don't think it's because of that. But we get down to the nitty gritty about real estate, and we really tell you how it is, and we tell you what is going on and what to look out for and what to be mindful for. But give us a 5-star review. We'd really appreciate that before we get going here. So, all right, ready? Everybody give their 5-star review. You're done? Okay. So we're going to get on. So the first thing that I would just mention on a personal level, and I think it's something that everybody's having a little bit of problem with right now. And I think more so at the beginning. I think hopefully you've gotten out of the fog already, because when you go into something like this, you just have no idea what's going on. And we've even asked ourselves that, here at the office, like, what the heck is going on? Like,
Yeah.
We almost thought about naming this podcast "What Is Going On."
Yeah. Well, several podcasts.
I mean, Jarrod thinks about that all the time.
Every day.
Every day he's saying what's going on.
I'm always surprised by everything. and it's my line, and Tom's using it for the podcast.
I'm just kidding. No, Jarrod's amazing. But the first thing I would encourage everybody to do is stay focused. So whatever it is that you're doing, whatever your mission is on this earth, whatever reason why you have turnkeys or why you own rental properties in the first place, stay focused on that. Rename those goals, rename the reason why, rename the people you're helping, rename your purpose, rename your mission, and stay focused on what you're supposed to be doing. We can only control the things that we can control, and we can't control the things we can't control. I know it sounds so simple,
It does.
but it's a lot harder in application. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is be diligent in your business. I believe that a man diligent in his business will stand before kings. He will not stand before mean men. And right now, unfortunately, I've been hearing a lot of stories about people that weren't so diligent in their business and weren't so diligent as a borrower or even as a lender. And that's going to be our next. We're kind of going to a sneak peak for next time already.
Can't help
for
himself,
the next.
guys.
I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But the next podcast we're going to do is about private lender versus private borrower. And I've been hearing stories about that, but really it all boils down, I believe, to just the diligence and being diligent in their business and making sure that they're communicating, making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and being a good steward of that. So, but be diligent in your business, whatever that means for you. I go to a lot of different groups and I hear things sometimes, and they say, I only want to work 4 hours a week, and I'm just like, that's just not reality. Sure. I'm sorry. Tim Ferriss with the 4-hour work week. I mean, he doesn't work 4 hours a week. He'll tell you that, but then he wrote a book about 4-hour work week. It doesn't exist. And if you really want to be successful, you're gonna work more than 4 hours a week. So that is just a dream, and it's an illusion, and it's not real. So hopefully that hits some people a little bit hard, and some people they're like, duh, I know that. And then thirdly, I would say keep the faith. Don't let go of your beliefs. Don't let go of those core values. Don't let go of the things that you're really trying to strive for and the things that you believe in. This has tested all of our faith to a certain degree, and I would just implore everybody to just keep the faith and to continue to do the things that you should do. Continue to be that person that you should be, and do the things that you're supposed to do, and really check your motives. Right now, it's really kind of hard. Motives are a strange thing, and a lot of I hear me and my family love Disney World, but one of the things that they say that I hate is like, just follow your heart. I could just hear Mickey saying it right now, and I'm like, our hearts are like wicked.
Was that your impression?
Yes, it was of Minnie or Mickey. I'm not sure which one it is, but
it's
horrible. I'm like, no, don't follow your heart. Our hearts will deceive us and lie to us. So it's not about our feelings.
It's a roller coaster.
It is. So keep the faith and have principles to live by. And then lastly, which I think is very important during these times, is to be kind. And right now during these times, we've heard of a lot of different families going through struggles and even marriages, and it's heartbreaking. But at the end of the day, like I have to be kind every day. There's going to be my wife may at times say things to me that I have to not respond to right away. I have to just calm my nerves. And I need to just respond properly. My employees may say things. My borrowers may say things. My tenants, they never say anything. And my lenders,
it's our vetting process.
Exactly, it's part of our vetting process. So anyway, so be kind. Really, it's one of our family's top rules. And I think if you're kind, a lot of other things will fall into place. Jarrod, what do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. I think one thing that's really become evident here is the stress levels people are dealing with on a daily basis. Like you said at the very beginning, at the beginning of all this, the unknown was, and you hear everything, the worst case scenarios and everything, and you just didn't know what to expect, and so the stress levels have come up. And I think one thing that's helped me personally is that we almost should expect people to have a bad day. It's going to come up. People are going to not act as if they normally do. Because they're concerned about, I would say, kind of transitions into the thing we're most important to us. We're kind of finding that out, remembering what those things are, being together being forced to spend time with family now, like we, as opposed to beforehand where, you did, but you didn't. And so learning what's most important, those are some things that's really helped us. And I think probably lastly is just for us has been communication. We've learned to communicate better through this thing. And on all facets, really, even personal and professionally. So I think it's brought some good things to light, and I think it kind of goes back to what you were saying about being positive. I've always said that you cannot bring a positive outcome out of negative thought. It's just never going to happen. You have to change your thinking. And so that could be taken in many different directions, but anyway, those are my thoughts, Tom.
Yeah, so it goes back to whatever you focus on expands, and expect people to have a bad day, and be kind, and just because somebody else, I used to always say, or I shouldn't say I used to always say, but there's many people that say 2 wrongs never make a right, right? Mm-hmm. And just because somebody else does something wrong doesn't necessarily give us the right to. And it's been honestly kind of discouraging for me at times to see on Facebook, for instance, like just the arguments that people get into over like wearing a mask. It's just like, it's mind-boggling to me that one person says the other person's stupid for wearing a mask, and then the other person says you're stupid for not wearing a mask, and you're inconsiderate. And I would just encourage and challenge everybody to just not get sucked into that. And it's really a waste of time if you think about it. Sure. All that negative energy that it doesn't matter what side of the coin you're on. At the end of the day, you're not going to change somebody else's opinion. And I think it goes back to, we really want to control everything and everybody. And I think at the end of the day, we can't. Yeah. We have to focus on what we can control. And sometimes I even made a list. I think I have one still here in my desk here somewhere. But I've even made lists sometimes of like, these are the things that are going on in my head right now. These are the things I can control, and these are the things I can't. All right, I need to push those things out of my sight. And I need to control me. I can control Tom Olson. I can't control Jarrod Stoltmeister. Sure. I can control myself. I can't control my wife. I can control myself. I can't control my kids. I can control myself. I can't control my tenants, although our tenants have been behaving fairly well lately. So anyway, so on a personal level, that's where it's at. So I'm excited to get into today's podcast about real estate, right? We're going to talk about are we done talking about the personal stuff?
I think so. I think that's.
If you want more personal stuff, you can switch over. Don't switch over. I'm sorry, but you can go back and forth from the Good Success podcast to the Active Turnkey podcast. The Good Success podcast, we talk a lot about being the right person and like what is the right kind of success, and that's great. But it's amazing. The last 3 months, we've gotten a ton of feedback from our Active Turnkey listeners. They either watch us on YouTube or they listen to the podcast, and they're pretty religious about it. I mean, they are like listening to every single one of them, and I think that's awesome. So today we're going to talk about real estate and the coronavirus and how the coronavirus is affecting real estate.
So yeah, I'm going to flip. I'm just going to ask that in question form. How has it affected?
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's affected real estate. It absolutely positively has, and it's going to continue. Where things are starting to unravel now. And it's kind of like, if you're not paying attention, you're gonna get stuck. You're gonna go down trails maybe that you shouldn't go down. For the last 3 or 4 months, we've been talking about cash and making sure that you have cash. We've been, paying attention to our own bottom lines and making sure that we have our own cash to be able to sustain. Now that things are opening up, it's almost like there's this vacuum that, for us, at least in our business, we are just seeing this vacuum and just tons of buyers just rushing into the market, and we're almost getting too many buyers come, at once to try that want properties. And so we're ramping up and trying to, fill those orders to a certain degree. True. But I'll tell you, the coronavirus has changed people's psychology. And the way people think now about where they live, how they shop, where they may vacation or not, whether or not we like it, or whether or not all of us are in that same boat. Some of us may think that this is just another flu season, but some of us, I believe, are gonna have these psychology shifts in our brain that will never go back. So I think we need to make sure that we're paying attention to those things. There are some bright spots, and I think we ought to focus on those and focus on seeing how we can take advantage of the next 6 to 9 months, and even honestly the next 10 years we should be thinking about. But I'm excited about today's podcast and talking about the things that are gonna what's happening in real estate right now.
So let's go into that. So right now, what areas are going to be hurt the most?
Well, I mean, we've already kind of seen I think the top three. Where number one is probably hospitality. Almost literally got shut down. And hospitality includes resorts, hospitality includes hotels, and hospitality even, for, a lot of us includes Airbnb, a home away, vacation rentals. I mean, I can tell you my own personal vacation rental portfolio, we probably lost about $60,000 in bookings, and we have got back about $40,000 of those. So, I mean, it was kind of like, wow, they went away, and now, wow, they're coming back. So we lost bookings in March, April, May, and June. We lost a lot of bookings in those 4 months, and now we've gotten back almost all of May, and all of June is probably 100% occupied. So we've gotten back a good portion of those, and we've gotten back actually probably higher rates in some of those, because our summer months are booked at a higher rate than some of the other, March and April. So hospitality is definitely a sector that we are going to see. Some foreclosures, and we're going to see some selling. We might even see some consolidation with some of the bigger players in the market. Your Hiltons, your Marriotts, more than likely they'll be okay, but they might consume a bunch of smaller places as well. I don't know, but I do know from an institutional mindset, the money's moved away. So like new money going in has kind of moved away from hospitality. So the second thing, but I do think out of the top three things that are losers in this, hospitality may be the one that does bounce back. So new money may come back into hospitality. I do think, and especially now, think about it. Like, are you ready for a vacation? I know I am. Definitely. So, I mean, I think a lot of us are getting to that point where we are ready to get out of Dodge, and we need it almost just for our own mentality, for the people that have been working 80 hours a week during this whole thing. So hospitality's been hit pretty hard. But hospitality, we have to understand, before this was on an upswing, was really roaring. So keep in mind, I think that gives us some clues as well. There's trends that were coming into this, and trends that I think they got stopped, but I'm not sure that those trends are going to continue. I'm sorry. I think those trends are going to continue actually after this, but it's kind of a wait and see ballgame, but we'll see. The second thing that obviously has been hit hard, so you got hospitality, number one. Number two is retail. And I think, we just heard about JCPenney going bankrupt. I think there's been a couple other large retailers that are declaring bankruptcy. So I mean, retail. If you own retail real estate, it might be really hard to fill. There might be a lot of vacancies coming down your path, and honestly, that might be the biggest wait and see sector. Like who comes back? We're going to talk later about the unemployment and how important that's going to be. Coming back in the next 3 to 6 months, and things to watch out for, but. Retail is people have moved to buying online. If you weren't comfortable buying online before this, you're comfortable buying online now. Yep. And it is fun to go to the mall. It is fun to go to the store, I think, at least. At times you get to touch and feel and kind of see what you're buying. So for that crowd that enjoys that, or just like wants to stroll or window shop, I don't think that retail is going to be dead by any means. However, I do think it's going to take a hit. But we have to understand, coming into this, it was already on a down slope to a certain degree. Amazon and even online Walmart. People have no idea how much Walmart sells online. It's amazing. But retail is definitely something to watch, and I think that who knows what's gonna happen to all the malls around the country. But that's definitely a sector that's going to get hurt hard. And then number 3 is probably going to be office space. So those 3 sectors, I believe, have really taken a gut punch. I mean, there's been major employers of like 60,000 and plus insurance companies that are making their people work. I shouldn't say making, but like they're having all their people work from home from now on permanently. And that could just gut office space. And it's something that if I was invested in, I'd be out of, or I wouldn't be putting new money into those. But I think we have to understand that office and also retail was already kind of starting to slip and already showing signs of weakness. And then to a lesser degree, and I know that some people out there are not going to like to hear this, but I do think to a lesser degree, multifamily is going to take a hit. Now, whether that's just on valuation, whether that's just on perception, whether that's just on how much net profit they make, but all in all, multifamily across the country has not performed as well as single family. And normally they were performing very similar to single family, but they have not been performing as well through this. And on top of that, there is a segment of the population, and we've even seen them in our own applications, people moving away from multifamily to single family because of the psychology behind it all. So, I don't think that they're going to hurt as bad as retail and hospitality. I'm not saying it's a bad place to put your money. I just think there's going to definitely be a softening, if nothing else, in the multifamily. And again, I'm not talking about your 4-unit buildings. I'm really talking about bigger complexes, and even more so, bigger complexes that are not really well professionally run and don't have like some of the extra amenities like your gyms and your pools and your other things. I think, but even those places, I think to a certain degree, if you have 500 or 600 people living in one location, if I would have been living there, I'll tell you what, for me, I would have had massive, probably like I would have had to leave just because I couldn't stay there. So I think those are the four sectors that I think are going to be hurt, and that we're already showing signs of being hurt. I already know some family offices that are already looking at buying hospitality and buying hotels. Interesting. But there's also some other ones that are hurting as well.
So on the flip side, who's benefiting from this, or who's gonna reap some benefits in the future?
I'm glad you asked that question, Jarrod. So yes, and again, and this is something that we're actually excited to talk about, because I think one of the bright lights is single family. But before I get to that, I think first of all, storage, which in a way has kind of always been a little bit of recession proof. It's normally not the thing that you think of that's going to give you the super high returns. It's normally not like a 20, 30%. It's normally a very steady 6, 8, 10, 12. But it's steady. And to think about it, like nobody was taking their stuff out of storage during this whole thing. Sure. Now, there may have not been new places rented, so brand new storage facilities maybe didn't get filled as quick as they may have normally used to. But I'm excited about storage. I'm actually even going to be talking about doing storage right here on our location here. We've got about 3 acres, and I do like storage a lot as an owner, and so I think it's something that everybody should be thinking about if they have a larger portfolio and want to add some things to their thing. So storage is number one, and I don't think it's the most. I think it's probably the least out of these 3. And then the next one I would say, which is probably number 2 on my list, which most people are not paying attention to, and that's warehouse. And people don't. Maybe people just don't think of like big garages as being real estate, but they are. And we've been seeing them go up like crazy in this area, because I really do believe Gary is going to be a logistics hub, and it's happening. Like we're seeing it happen right in front of our eyes. But like if the world starts buying everything online, guess what they're going to need more of? They're going to need more hubs, DCs. More, what'd you call them?
DCs, distribution centers.
Centers, yep. Yes. DCs, I was thinking that was Washington, DCs, but we don't need any more Washington, DCs. But yes, distribution centers, absolutely. So if you are in an area that has decent population, you might think about that. Like, how can I put some some warehouses up that have docks. I mean, I know we're over here in Hobart, right by 61st Menards over there. Like they just built this massive thing over 2 years ago. They didn't even have a single one of them rented. They didn't buy the whole thing. They didn't build it for a tenant that they knew was going to be there. But now, like almost all of them are already full. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's something, and they're cheap to build too. So, you know, if you just, I would think about that. Your Amazons, your FedExes, your UPSs, all of these shipping places around the world. If more things are going to be online, which I believe they will be, I think that the psychology of us is telling us that that's going to happen, then I think warehouse is something that people ought to be considerate with. And then lastly is what we sell, single family. It is awesome, the fact that, and it's kind of funny, Jarrod, because if you followed me for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been saying this, like single family rentals in this recession are going to go up in value. And, you know, I said it on a webinar, like the second week into this thing. I said it again at a mastermind that I was a panelist with. And it's almost as if nobody wanted to believe me then, but now we're already seeing the data now from Adam Data, from auction.com, from the large capital groups. And it's hilarious to me because all the lenders stopped lending. All your private lenders, your non-Fannie Mae, non-private, you know, hand-to-handshake, you know, one-to-one type of private lenders, they kept lending to a certain degree, although some of them got scared. Your big lenders, like your Fannie Mae's, they kept lending, but this whole middle ground just like vacated. They left the building. And honestly, I think it might hurt them going forward because people are going to remember that.
Absolutely.
People are going to remember that money left. And then now all of a sudden, when all the data started supporting the fact that the single family residents and the single family homes are holding value and may actually maybe continuing to go up in value in the retail market in most areas under $250,000. Again, I'm still talking about sub 250 markets. There's not enough inventory. You know, we went into this recession with not enough single family inventory. We're not building any faster, and we still haven't even touched, we're probably only 50 to 60% of what we were building in 2006. So, you know, like people need to pay attention to those things. And single family under $200,000, if you can buy, rehab, and sell for less than you can build that same property, the market is wide open still. So, and I think that also is the case for single family. And then I was also on another webinar in the last 2 weeks, which confirmed something else that I've said. All of these big institutions, the family office, the institutional money, that equity groups that have got billions of dollars that were putting all their money in multifamily, putting all their money in putting all their money in hospitality or retail. There's a lot of money. There's billions of dollars sitting in those. They are taking that money and they're saying, how do I get in the single family office? I mean, not single family office, the single family game. How do I get into it? And right now there is just tons and tons of new build construction, whole subdivisions, you know, built to rent going up across the country. And they're talking about those numbers doubling by the end of the year. They're saying like that we may have several hundred more subdivisions being built by these equity groups, what is that going to do? It's going to raise the value because there's not enough. Real estate has one rule. What is it, Jarrod?
Location?
No, one rule. not what are the keys to real estate, but real estate has one rule. Supply and demand. It always follows it. It doesn't matter. Like it's supply and demand, and it's the one thing that you have to pay attention to. So, single family, I think, is going to be the bright spot, honestly. And like I said, we're seeing it in our own, rentals.
Yep.
The single family rental. So not just single family in general for people buying and for value, but also single family rentals.
Yep.
The demand is. It has been, again, let's go back to pre-coronavirus. The demand was already going up in single-family rentals. And it just multiplied.
Yep.
I mean, we got 5 times the applications we've ever gotten in a single month in both April and May. So both April and May, we've gotten 5. Actually, it might have been even before that.
It was March, too.
In March.
Yep.
So March, April, and May, we got 5 times the applications we've ever gotten on rental properties. So... all I can tell you is this is what I'm seeing by different reports. This is not just what I'm saying. This is what many of the other experts are saying. Like, again, I talked to the CEO of auction.com, and I was listening to a panel with the CEO of RCN and CEO of Corvest and the CEO of, or the owner or CEO of, I forgot what the other, there's like a, it's a single family. It's not Roofstock, but it's another platform kind of like Roofstock that has single family houses, and everything is moving in that direction, and it's moving quickly, and there's going to be a lot of money, like big sharks moving into this direction. So, and all that's going to do is create more. It will create more product eventually. Eventually, this may hurt us. I don't know if we get overbuilt, but like we just haven't built for the last 10 years. We have not built this product, and it's coming. Now it's time to pay the piper, so to speak. And now these houses in areas that are populated, things are changing quickly in areas like Gary. People are moving to these areas, and even me and my wife were going up and down the streets, and like there is people out mowing lawns and keeping up the place, and that just wasn't the case 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. So that's who's going to benefit the most, Jarrod.
So kind of going on that line, then you're talking about these different things. What is the trend? What are the trends that you're seeing? Things that are starting to form that are going to happen here.
All right. So trends, I think, are also important. There's been 5 or 6 articles already that I've seen that talk about all the people moving out of New York City. So New York City is the most populated city in our country. And I honestly, it was actually strange. I didn't even realize Chicago would make the list, but Chicago, I believe, was in the top 5. But they're moving to Miami. Why do I live in Miami? I have no idea. They're moving to like South Florida. They're even moving to LA. I think LA may have been number 2 or 3. Dallas, Texas, Atlanta. So and Chicago and other, Nashville, I think, got some, and people are at least moving even down to like the Carolinas are moving in those areas as well. So I think that's the first trend I'd be paying attention to is where is the population moving out of. I think the first thing I'd pay attention to is like New York and New Hampshire, and is the population going to move out of there or not? And it already signaling yes, like there is going to be a move there. But I think more so than that, for most people here, they don't live in New York City. They may or may not even get a benefit from this at all. They may not. But I think the other thing to think about is I do believe that people are going to move away from the bigger cities. And it's kind of a trend that is opposite of what's been going on for the last 10 years. So if you go back to 95 to 2005, there was this trend to move away from the big cities. Like even in Chicago here, people were moving all the way up to like Gurnee, and they were like an hour and a half out of the city commuting all the way in, right? So these subdivisions were being sprawled out, even in our area, we think of like Lowell, Indiana, and we think of like DeMont even, people were starting, and that's like from here is another hour or 45 minutes or whatever. So from Chicago, that's like an hour and a half. Between that decade, there was kind of like a trend out. And in the last 10 years, it's almost been the opposite. The last 10 years, this trend has been to move back in. It's been really like, let's suck back into the populated areas, more multifamily builds. Dallas, Texas, Houston, your cities like that have really expanded and really started to honestly like gain ground on Chicago for the 3rd largest city in the United States as far as population is concerned. But even in Chicago, more people moving downtown, more high-rise buildings, more condos. Miami has been really built up. Places like even Atlanta is crazy downtown. A lot of people live down there. So we've seen this trend over the last 10 years, but now it's almost as if everybody's psyche is completely changed into like, okay, it might be nice to have, a little smaller house with about 2 acres away from everybody, like Jarrod, just outside of town, close enough where I can go to the malls, but just outside of town. I don't necessarily want to be right in town. So I think that we should be looking to those areas. And wouldn't you know it, that's where we live, Jarrod. We live right outside of Chicago. And actually, it's one of the benefits that we always talk about, that we live right outside Chicago. We can go to downtown Chicago if we want for a night out, for half an hour away, 45 minutes away. But we get to live in our own little bedroom communities over here in Indiana and pay less in rent, pay less in taxes, have a much more landlord-friendly state, and also have some of the benefits that we get to have with a state that actually has money in the bank versus like a bankrupt state like Illinois. I think that's some of the trends that I'm focusing on is population. Also, I think I've already mentioned this, but renters' higher preference. I'm not going to say they're going to go away from multifamilies and multifamilies are going to be dead. I don't think that there's going to be blood in the streets like I do believe that there will be for some retail and for some office, like may just go back to the bank. And I think that's something we need to worry about, honestly, because that's big money on some of those big buildings, and that could make banks go bankrupt, and we don't want to see that happen again. We saw what happened in 2008. When that happened. So that is a little bit of a fear. Hopefully they can work those things out. But renters definitely are going to have a higher preference on single family. And I think on the other end, whenever there is an economic problem in the United States at least, we always see a greater demand for rentals. We saw it in 2008. People that lost their jobs may not qualify for a mortgage now. Why? Because they lost their job. Whether or not they go find another job or not, they might have to have another year, 2 years on the job. So we are already seeing this. It's already happening. Just expect it. The demand for rentals all around is going to go up. And it's already going up. And it's going to continue to go up for at least the next 3, 6, 9 months heavy. And it's probably going to last for at least 2 years before things start to go back out again. I mean, we even have a house right now still under contract with a buyer that got out of contract because the lender didn't want to end up doing the deal with her because she technically lost her job, even though she came back to work within 2 weeks or something. And so it's the lenders got really funny.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know how long the lenders are going to continue to stay funny. We're already getting 30-year. I got 10 emails at least yesterday and today from all these lenders now that all of a sudden want to loan money 30 years at 80%. And it's kind of funny to me, but I'm like, 2 weeks ago, you guys were crickets, and now everybody wants to loan the money. So I think everybody's kind of really figured out, like they've seen the last, data reports from Madam Data and from some other big data companies, and they're like, holy crap, like we may have made a mistake. We may have overreacted, maybe. Hello. Okay, sorry, off my soapbox here. But rent demand is skyrocketing.
We're seeing it on days on market. It's just, if you have and again, we have nice places to live. If you have a nice place, it's going to get rented quickly. People are looking and searching for these things, telling their family members when a house is being rehabbed next door. I mean, it's just. I
was talking to all my construction workers this morning, and they're like, every time we're on one of your houses, before we're even finished, we have neighbors and everybody just asking, when is this place going to be for rent?
Right.
When is this place going to be for rent? Like, it's. People are looking for construction workers to go look at houses before they're rented so they can get their name on the list first to be able to be that renter. It's that crazy. It's that much of a demand.
We're getting stuff rented even before the project's finished. We're getting pre-leasing done. It's just it's crazy. So kind of moving on from that, what are some metrics we can look at that can kind of go into what you're describing?
I think there's lots of different things, and I think everybody should have their own data points that they check and look at and think about. But I think we do have some unknowns still.
Sure, definitely.
I don't think that we're out of the woods by any stretch of the means. I do think that there will be foreclosures. I think we should be paying attention to a couple different things. So first of all, forbearance. Like there are millions of loans in forbearance right now. Those could be opportunities for people. They're probably not going to be opportunities in the 3 to 6 month future, but they're probably going to be more opportunities in the 6 to 9 month, picture. But I mean, for those people that are buying foreclosures, it's also possible that those notes will be sold off instead of them actually being foreclosed on. So that's another possible opportunity there. I do think the note business is going to start stirring, and you'll definitely see some paper in that regards to be had. I also I think unemployment is something that we really have to watch closely, and nobody knows. I'm seeing news articles and I'm seeing blogs and opinions on complete opposite ends of the spectrum. I'm not seeing anybody that I feel like really has a middle road here. It's like everybody's calling for blood in the streets, or everybody's saying it's not going to be that bad. And I think the truth always lies in the middle sometimes. I don't know why that is, Jarrod. If a husband and a wife are in a fight, normally the truth is like half one and half the other. It's so, and that's kind of how I always kind of bring my presentation. That's how I always think, so I've taken from some of those naysayers. I've taken from some of the people that say that we're just going to bounce right back. And I kind of think it's going to probably be in the middle. Like we don't really know. And to predict that might not be be so wise right now. I think there are some things that like I said, we've already seen demand. We're already seeing things that are moving quickly in certain directions, so we can talk about those things. But I think very important numbers will be July, August, September, and even like the next couple months unemployment reports. Like I know they say there's 30 million people unemployed right now. And I know the government's paying more for unemployment than a lot of people make at their jobs. Again, I've been saying for the longest time now, you can really tell who really wants to work and who doesn't. And I think it's a blessing because like I don't want any of those people. Any of those people that would rather sit at home, even if they're going to make $200 more to sit at home, and they can probably justify in their head why that's smarter and that's better for their family, or they need to make the extra money. I'm sorry if that's the case. I don't want to hire you. I don't. And I think, and for me, like I think the cream of the crop is smaller than what we thought it was, and it's rising to the top faster than ever. It's so obvious right now who your good employees are and who you're the people are that you need to let go. It was like all gray in February, and now it's completely black and white. So I love it, but I definitely think unemployment numbers are going to be key going forward here, and we really do need to keep an eye on those. And I mean, I know people like to use those back and forth different ways, but also who opens up and who doesn't. I mean, we just don't know.
Right.
We don't know who the restaurant owners are going to open up or not. I know some restaurants didn't open back up when some of these, phase twos of the different areas of the country because they thought that at 50% they still can't make money. So why even open? Again, I think that's a bad attitude from an owner's perspective. I think that the people that are open are going to be rewarded. That at least I would reward them if I saw them being diligent. And me and my wife are trying to go out to as many restaurants as we possibly can. First of all, to try to make up from the lost time,
Sure,
but second of all, to really try to encourage other people to support the local restaurants and retail. I mean, I think retail and there's a lot of jobs in retail and a lot of jobs at restaurants. So who opens up and who doesn't, I think, is things that we really should be paying attention to. But those unemployment numbers, I do see interest rates pretty much staying where they are. I don't even see them moving barely at all, if anything, until at least next year. We're at election year anyway, so who knows? And obviously, the election will probably have some bearing on what we see going forward.
Oh, definitely.
I'm not going to give any opinions on that one side or the other, but I do think that will definitely that will make a lot of difference on the forbearance market, on the eviction memorandums, and those are the things too. Like we're still waiting here. I do believe in Indiana we should be able to start evicting here in the next week or two, if I'm not mistaken. And unless they extend that farther, but right now I know that and some states are already open, courts are already open, and that's encouraging to see. But definitely those are the things that we should be paying attention to. And then also population movement. We already talked about that a little bit, but you really need to think about that. I would also love to make sure we pay attention to the build to rent, and that's something that's on our radar. We are trying to figure it out ourselves here, and I do believe it will be a part of Flipping Gary at some time in the future. And then also, I would just encourage everybody to just pay attention. So right now, just at final thoughts, kind of like pay attention to what's going on. We're already seeing clues. You don't have to look very hard, but you just have to look for the clues. Instead of looking at, Facebook for like fighting over if you should wear a mask or not, actually be diligent in your business and pay attention.
So a lot of information, for sure. Ton of information. Tom has done a little thinking on these topics over the last few months.
And reading.
just a little bit. But definitely. And actually, Tom's done a good job for our company, keeping us informed, kind of giving a different viewpoints, different worldviews, different things that are happening, and kind of keeping us informed and in the know, I guess you can say.
Yeah, there's one more thing that we didn't mention, but lending. We kind of mentioned it, but we didn't really, that's something else to pay attention to. And I was told a month ago that private money lending outside of Fannie Mae would not open up for 2 years. And I was like, I can't believe that.
Sure.
That doesn't seem right. And now we're already seeing it open already again.
Yeah.
So just
I was told the same thing from another lender. He's like,
pay
by the end of
attention,
the
guys.
year, definitely through the rest of
right. I mean, so pay attention, guys. Things are changing rapidly and quickly. So don't believe everything you hear. That's the other thing. Honestly, don't even believe everything you hear from me. I'm not. All I'm giving you is somewhat of our opinion, but also what I've seen and what I've read, and kind of what we're seeing in our own business.
Absolutely. So kind of giving you a little bit of more information, we want to start giving you guys a little idea what's going to happen next in our podcasts. So our next podcast, Tom already alluded to it, but we are going to be talking about private lenders versus private borrowers.
And what's great? I have a book. It's called Investors versus Contractors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I couple it a lot. It's very similar. Investors think that all contractors are con artists, and contractors think that all investors are evil and they don't want to pay you for anything.
Sure.
But if either party will realize the value the other person brings, they can really be lightning.
Sure.
And that's how it is with private lending and private borrowers. I had talked to a guy 2 days ago, and he asked me, why in the world would you loan me money? And I'm like, once you do it, you'll realize how awesome private lending is. I'm like, once you give somebody money, they do a project, they pay you back, you're like, I only spent 4 hours and I just made $10,000. Where else can I make $2,500 an hour? I don't know. Professional basketball? I'm 6'1". It's probably not going to happen. And I'm white. And I can barely jump. No, I'm just kidding. Right. I used to be able to jump, but not anymore. But anyway, so I got some air. So it is a hot topic right now. Unfortunately, I've heard of a lot of private borrowers not communicating or kind of going dark, and also some deals that have gone bad. A lot of these deals that I've heard about going bad were already going bad pre-COVID.
That's true.
So again, I don't think a lot of this is COVID related, but with people's fears and anxiety up during COVID, it's definitely heightened more so. And I do think it's a great topic, and you won't want to miss it. I promise you. But I probably should write a book about it someday, because again, just like being a contractor and being an investor, I'm on both sides of this.
Absolutely.
I'm a borrower, and I do believe that the borrower is servant to the lender. But I don't necessarily believe being a servant's a bad thing. And the Bible says that Jesus was a servant to all, and the servant's the greatest of all. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's not that you shouldn't be, but I'm excited about the topic. I'm getting into the topic. We got to stop.
He is, man. We're just going to segue right
cut that
into
off.
episode.
We're just going to go right into the next episode.
Yes.
So, anyways, there's a lot to be said about the borrower and the private lender, and I hope you guys will listen to the next podcast.
So just transitioning here, we definitely want to hear feedback from you. So if you even have our content information, definitely reach out or respond or ask questions here on our pages. And we'd love to hear back from you. Give us feedback, questions, what have you, comments. And
or maybe an episode you want to hear about.
Absolutely, definitely. You're a list, and again, this podcast is designed to help the investor think differently in some cases, or at least have another thing to think about as they're making their due diligence and making their decisions with their portfolios. So with that in mind, just remember that we do build rental portfolios here at Olson Group. So if you're looking to buy or looking to find a new area to invest in, we would recommend Northwest Indiana and Gary in particular. And
we also steward these properties for people too. So we don't just build rental portfolios for investors. We also steward and manage, or whatever you want to call it. We like to use the word steward instead of a manager. Rental portfolios for investors.
So. Absolutely. So thank you for joining us. So anything else you want to add for us, Tom?
I don't think so, Jarrod. If I keep talking, we might start a third podcast.
I think we should go. Active Turnkey.
The best way to buy rentals.
See you guys. Olson Group Network makes no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast should not be considered professional advice. Unless specifically stated otherwise, Olson Group Network does not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast, and information from this podcast should not be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement. Any third-party materials or content of any third-party site referenced in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions, standards, or policies of Olson Group Network. Olson Group Network assumes no responsibility or liability for the accuracy or completeness of the content contained in third-party materials or on third-party sites referenced in this podcast or the compliance with the applicable laws of such materials and/or links referenced herein.